Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show from the CPRS Conference 2026, powered by the Outdoorlink and DPRS Media Network. This episode highlights the power of leadership, mentorship, and growth in parks and recreation. In today's episode, we're joined by Dave Ramirez, a 32-year parks and recreation professional turned national specialist with Outdoorlink, as we dive into how smart technology is reshaping parks and communities. From eliminating late-night light complaints to creating fully connected park systems, this conversation is packed with real solutions that improve efficiency, reduce costs, and elevate the community experience. Let's dive in.
All right, we are live again with the Daily Parks and Rec Show here live from CPRS 2026 with one of our greatest hosts, Dave Ramirez, who is hosting one of our latest shows on technology. And that show is not every second and fourth Mondays. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, and that's all going to be about technology and turning your city into like a smart city that's interconnected and stuff. And so Dave's company does this. So in addition to hosting one of our weekly shows, we also have him as one of our primary sponsors in Outdoorlink. So Dave, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and then how you got into working with Outdoorlink.
Sure. Thank you, Craig. Dave, my name is David Ramirez. I'm 32 years Parks and Rec professional, retired, and then came on over to the other side as the National Parks and Rec Specialist for Outdoorlink. So basically, I was a client with the company when I was with Hillsborough County, Florida, and our team came together to come up with a platform to help some of our problems we had in our department. Lights not being turned off, schedules not working, the complaints from commissioners and residents. So we came up with a smart control platform to help us with those issues. And it was like night and day. Once we got it hooked up and running properly, all the headaches that I was receiving, the phone calls, the emails, the complaints dissipated. We were able to become more efficient and go ahead and save our residents, taxpayers money on utility bills. It was an amazing feat that we got. We got the good pat on the back, and we did something good for our communities. And now I'm out here traveling the country like Craig and the DPRS network, and bringing the word of what we do and what we provide to other state parks and rec agencies.
Yeah, and so how I've explained it to others that ask me about it, it's kind of like when you have these, everybody's familiar with your smart home, and your house can actually detect when your cell phone's getting close and turn on the lights and turn on the AC and open the garage door. Imagine you could do that with your entire city. With the splash pads and the bathroom doors lock after a certain hour, or the lights for the baseball field go off after the coach leaves and forgets to turn them off.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's amazing because the evolution was more light focus, but now we pretty much anything electrical we could go ahead and control using an app on your phone, on your smartphone, or a portal on the computer. You could basically manage, monitor, and control all your electrical amenities out there in the community. When it comes to cities itself, we're doing street lights and parking lots. We're, in Parks and Rec, we're doing ball fields and restroom buildings and gates and water splash pads, everything. So the first half of conference here has been a great talk to a lot of folks, and that are struggling like I was, back in the day when I was doing the job. And like I said, we have a solution to go ahead and stop those pain points. And it's an affordable solution too, where everybody can go ahead and just jump on, and it's just not breaking the bank.
Yeah. And one thing I love about y'all is y'all are 100% U.S. based, U.S. manufactured. Everything is done here. And even your customer service, it's somebody picking up the phone from Huntsville, Alabama.
Alabama. Yeah. They're going to pick up that phone 24/7 to go ahead and handle any situation that may arise. If it's a light not being turned off and they can't turn it off for some reason, they call that number, we'll get them turned off. If there's an issue, we'll do a diagnostic check straight from our offices in Huntsville to figure out what the issue is and fix it.
Yeah. And then not just the hardware is manufactured here in the States, but even y'all software was built in-house. Y'all actually employ the software engineers that built this thing and that constantly update it and keep it going.
That is correct. We have our own engineering team in our main offices. Everything, like I said, it's a family-owned business. Been around since 2007, and everything is in-house. I'm remote, being in Florida, but again, I'm all over the place, sharing the word of what we do. But yes, all done right here.
So let's talk a little bit about the problems that y'all solve and what are some of the other use cases that y'all are starting to use those devices for.
Well, like I said earlier, the biggest thing was the controls for athletic sports lighting. That's a pain point on many people, because I could tell you many Parks and Rec professionals are dealing with that call that they get at 11:30 or midnight that the ball field lights weren't turned off, and you got angry residents or angry commissioners that are receiving the calls and the emails complaining, to a taxpayer, or the lights are shining in my windows, and I'm, at a community park. So, basically we slide in there. We have a controller that basically, if you got that call, you could do it from anywhere. So if I got a call that lights were on in Florida, I could come right onto my phone and turn them off. It's that remote and that easy. Another thing is our controls are simple. We understand, I lived it, how busy Parks and Rec professionals how busy they are and what they got on their plate. So it's a simple couple of step process, and you are in, and you can do whatever you need to do to your electrical amenities. Other things, door locks, a lot of remote restroom buildings at parks where there's no staff. We're controlling the door locks now, where they can go and open up at a certain time and lock down at a certain time. Splash pads, the water station, the timers, we're doing that. Any type of court lighting, we're there. Sunrise to sunset type feature. So, when the sun goes down, the lights come on, and for a parking lot, that's, sunrise, sunset. But for a court, you set the time for it to shut off, and it's off and done.
All right, so let me see if I can describe the old system. The old system is a bunch of padlocks, a bunch of keys given to 50 or 100 volunteer coaches throughout the year. And so after a few years, you might have like 300 keys floating around for the disconnects. And I guess they would just been given the key, unlock the disconnect, turn it on, and then unfortunately some coaches would just leave it on all night, and you get this call from grandma who's living next door saying, hey, these lights are shining, it's 2 a.m. And that's when the director, the superintendent, has to go. So that's the old system, correct?
Correct.
And now it's as simple as just a flip of an iPhone on an iPhone app. You can turn all of your lights off or on a schedule.
You got it. It's as easy as just pulling up the app and hitting a couple of buttons.
Yeah.
And they're color coded. So if it's red, it's off. If it's green, it's on. You know what I'm saying? So everything is just super simple and efficient, because what would happen, those late night calls to turn off lights, not only were we burning lights that shouldn't have been burning, but we also had to pay somebody after hours, some overtime, to go drive to flip a switch.
Yeah.
That goes away with our platform.
Yeah, and that's the big ticket item a lot of people don't. It's not just the electricity, but you're having to pay typically your highest paid person. A lot of times it's the director themselves getting out of bed, going to turn these lights off.
There's many times that I would make the call to try to find somebody from my team at midnight to turn a light off, and it didn't happen. So I'm the one that had to roll out and get it turned off.
So let's talk about your tour of the country, going through all the Parks and Rec associations. What's it like kind of seeing how all these other states are operating their associations?
Oh, it's amazing. The Parks and Rec associations are vital to the field. To the every state is different, but one thing that is for sure, they all love what they do. Parks and Rec people, it's a club. You want to call it a club, but it is a family. You know what I'm saying? I get to travel and meet new people, and then when I come back, it's like I met them. It seems like I was there talking to them last week, and it might have been a year ago. You know what I'm saying? We all connect, and we share. You know what I'm saying? What's working? What's not working? How can we help each other? There's no stealing programs or ideas from others. We just share. And it's just a great feel. Again, me retiring out and be able to do what I'm doing right now, I'm still involved in Parks and Rec, and that was very important to me with my next move career-wise. So I'm fortunate. Like I said, I've been to a few states already, but 3 or 4 states this year. got a whole slate of different states throughout the rest of the year. Next month, I'll be in Washington for their Parks and Rec conference. And then the fall, we'll be jamming and getting out there and getting the word out. And then, of course, those associations, they have so many good programs for young professionals, and a lot of the things that we do on our media network, they're focused at these conferences. So there's a young professionals group, and there's a maintenance block, and there's leadership blocks. And I think that's huge. You know what I'm saying? It's so good to have. So I would recommend anybody that is coming into the field, become a member of the association in your state and get involved, ask questions, go to the classes, get on their chats and their forums on their websites. You're going to learn so much, and you're going to make a lot of new friends and connections.
Anything specifically said? Big shout out to Stephanie Stevens, the executive director here in California, CPRS. I guess one thing I'd like to say is, man, California really just does things to the highest degree. This is a very well-established Parks and Rec association, and great attendance here. Anything specific you'd like to say about the California Parks and Rec Society?
Well, this is our second year, and definitely after year one, it was mandatory. We said, we're coming back. It was just a great group of people, big numbers, lots of people here, all different stages of the career, which I love. Love to go ahead and talk to somebody that's in that entry-level position to a director. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times everybody's like, oh, I'm coming through the expo, just to sort of look at things and stuff. I go, well, why don't you go ahead and be that person to go ahead and take it back? You like it, and it has some worth to it. Bring it back to your director. Your director may not make it out here, or bring it back to the office. You know what I'm saying, and share. So they do a great job here. It's a great setup, very organized. Proud to go ahead and support them. We're part. We went ahead and made a donation towards their education foundation, the scholarships that they give out and stuff. And again, we're here, and tell everybody to come by and see us. Before the day ends tomorrow, and check us out. And we plan to be back year after year.
I love it. All right. So in closing, I'd like you to give a testimony, since you've been in Parks and Rec for 30 plus years, and now you're that's on the public side. Now you're on the private side. What would you say to those college kids that maybe don't even realize Parks and Rec is an industry you can find a job in, either on the public or private side? Any kind of testimony you would give to them as why they may want to consider Parks and Recreation as a career path?
Well, a few of the things that I mentioned, it's that family atmosphere. Once you get in and you learn the field and learn the people that you're working with, man, it's tight. It's a tight-knit group of folks. Me coming in, like I said, I was a college student, and I came in and I actually ran into my old coach, because I am a product of the parks. I went to summer camps. I played in their athletic leagues. I grew up in the parks. So in college, working a different type of job, run into my coach, and she offered me a spot. She goes, why don't you come work for me? And I sort of got like a substitute type position where you could go travel from park to park when somebody's on vacation or sick. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take it. Let's do it. And that was the beginning of my career professionally. And from there on, just worked my way up. And the thing is, everybody's like, oh, it does take time, but there's opportunity always out there. So don't be shy about expressing your interests and your ideas. I did that. And like I said, within a couple of years, I was the youngest rec center director in Hillsborough County back in the day. And, and I was out there with a lot of veterans, and I learned so much from them. But I also had a spin on things too. I had that fresh idea and thought on the field and what we could do. And, I just say go for it. It is a viable career. We need Parks and Recreation. It's a vital part of your community. And I always say Parks and Rec is essential. I've been using that for most of my career. It's Parks and Rec, but then it's anything involved with your community. When tragedy strikes, Parks and Rec steps up. They're providing people, they're providing facilities, they're providing support to go ahead and make that transition from a tragedy like a natural disaster or a school or community shooting or something. Parks and Rec steps in. You know what I'm saying? And so we're needed. We're vital. We're essential.
Yeah, and the thing about this industry is you don't have to, you can start off as a volunteer in high school to get that exposure to the industry if it's something you want to do. And then you can move into a part-time, and many parks and rec professionals like yourself, that's how they started, just volunteering, maybe then a lifeguard or working the concession stands. Next thing you know, they're full into this as a career path.
Craig, when like I said, I was a child, a kid in the program, and then I was a teenage volunteer where I would show up at summer camp 8-9 hours a day, volunteer my time, grab a candy bar and a nice pop out at a concession stand. I was happy. Then I stepped up into a program that they had in Tampa back in the day. It was the It was called Cedar Worker, which was Summer Youth Enhancement Program. So we came in, we got $200 and we worked all summer at a park, as a junior leader. So, and they're out there. So even, for folks, I've seen many kids that I mentored when I was doing the field that are now in the Parks and Rec field. So, you know what, if I made a little bit of a difference, influence, I'll take that credit, but I love to see my old Parks kids giving back in Parks and Recreation, because that's who I catered to back in the day.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming, sharing that story on our show. Thank you for hosting one of our weekly shows, and thank you big shout out to Outdoorlink for sponsoring everything we do at DPRS Media Network. Could not do it without them. Joby, actually, why don't you go ahead and play the Outdoorlink promo right before the close, and we'll go ahead and end it that way. Thanks a lot, guys, for attending.
Thank you, Craig.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoorlink comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoorlink's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Update digital displays in real time. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. And even run community or sponsorship campaigns on digital screens. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoorlink proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoorlink, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
Are you a vendor, brand, or service provider ready to connect with the heartbeat of local communities? At DPRS Media Co., we tell the stories shaping parks and recreation across America. Through podcasts, live streams, videos, and newsletters, we reach frontline leaders, city directors, and decision makers every single week. From youth sports and facilities to programming and policy, our audience is your audience. Sponsoring or partnering with DPRS Media Co. puts your brand in front of the professionals who build, budget, and buy for their communities. Launching a new product? Growing your presence in public spaces? Targeting cities, counties, or departments? DPRS is your trusted media partner. Whether you're in software, turf, aquatics, robotics, smart cities, or special events, partnering with DPRS puts your brand in the story. With commercials, interviews, social campaigns, newsletters, and live shows, we're your media team. Partner with us and grow your impact in the $200 billion parks and rec industry. DPRS Media Co. Stories that move parks and rec forward. Your audience is here. Let's meet them.